Hello Methodology Lions and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at how you're going to structure your interview prep. And what we've done is we've refined it down to 14 principles that if you follow in this order, then we can see no reason why you won't get an offer from medical or dental school. Now, we empathize with the fact that navigating interview preps is a bit like a maze. You don't know where to start and where to look and what resources to use. So in this video, we're going to bundle all of that together and give you a comprehensive method to approach your interviews. And hopefully, if you follow it, you'll see success. So let's get into the first principle. The first principle is to make a timeline. Now, we often get asked the question, how long should I be preparing for interviews? And the answer is months. As soon as you sit your UCAT, you should now be thinking, okay, when am I going to start doing my interviews? And we recommend starting from September and taking it all the way through to the end of your interviews, which can be February or March time. And the mindset to have is to treat this like a fourth A level, just a temporary extra bit of added work that you're going to do every single day for a few months because it's going to prepare you for the interview. And if you think about it, if you do give yourself 3 or 4 months to revise before your first interview, you have 120 days to prepare. That's 120 days to do multiple questions. So you're going to do probably hundreds of questions before you walk into that interview, and that is the type of prep you need to be doing to be ready. At Methodology, we call it volume theory, which is just the idea that if you do loads of something, eventually you're going to be good at it. Okay, the second principle is to research your universities. Now, I don't mean why you want to go to the university, even though that's important. I mean the interview style. Figure out if you're doing panel interviews, MMI interviews, asynchronous interviews, or a different method altogether. Some universities use a hybrid of a panel and an MMI, for example. And then the things to be looking out for are, how long does each station last? How long does the panel last? How many questions will we be asked in the interview? How many interviews are there? What style of questions tend to come up? And once you figure all of this out, you then have a framework to work towards because you know exactly what's going to come up, how much time you have to answer. And that's important because if one interview expects you to deliver answers in 4 minutes and another expects you to deliver 8-minute answers, that's a completely different ball game, and you're going to have to adapt your prep accordingly. So get the information and build a picture of what the dragon that you're going to face with these interviews actually. Step 3. Now, the method that we recommend to prepare for interviews is a very question-based approach where you expose yourself to questions in all the different station types and do enough of them until you develop a strategy and know the talking points off the top of your head. And in terms of where to look to find those questions, we'll give you a list of resources now. Number 1 is in the link in the bio. We've given you access to 100 free interview questions, which from our experience are some of the most common ones that come up. Then you've got websites like Blackstone Tutors, which release loads of MMI questions. And then you've also got our courses like the interview course and most famously the interview journey, where we train you in all the different questions that you need to know to be prepared. The 4th step is to then make a very good collation of questions. So get all the questions from multiple different banks and divide them by subtopic: motivation for dentistry or medicine, personal qualities, ethics and SJT, real life scenarios and medical and dental scenarios, hot topics, curveballs, role plays, lateral thinking. Make a whole pool of these questions, even manual dexterity stations for the dentist and in some cases medics as well. And once you've got all of that and you've populated it with questions, you now have your revision framework. If you can develop answers to all those questions you've collated and go into the interview with that knowledge, you're in a really good position. Now, on this note of collating information, we also recommend learning some key pieces of theory. For the medics, we'd advise finding a reputable source to study all of the hot topics in medicine. We'd also recommend for both medics and dentists to find a source where you can learn structures and frameworks for all of the key question types. So how do you approach Breaking Bad news role plays? How do you approach ethics questions? How do you approach SJT questions? And again, our courses like the interview course or the interview journey are where you can learn this. Another very important piece of information to consume for doctors is good medical practice and the 4 pillars within it, and for the dentist, the 9 GDC guidelines. And it's also really important that you read into wider healthcare principles and cases too. For example, the duty of candor, Gillick competence, what defines consent as being valid, and for the medics, cases like the Charlie Gard case. Now you'll reach a point where you've got the resources and you know where to study from, but your question is, how do I know if I'm saying the right thing, and how do I know how much to go and study and how much to answer questions? So let's break that down for you. We would say that you should center your revision around answering questions, and every single day take 2 or 3 or 4 questions from your bank and study them and research the technique to answer that question well. Consult online resources, but do your thorough research, and after you've got all of that information, then develop your own answer. And by developing an answer, we mean writing a bullet point short framework for how you'd approach each question, and then have a practice saying it out loud so that you can see if you can communicate all the points that you've researched clearly and in a way that's easy for someone to follow along with you. So yes, that means day one, as soon as you start your interview prep, you are in a position to start answering questions. And at the start, guys, one thing to be prepared for is that you might struggle to give a 30-second answer. But in interviews, you have to be able to give answers from anywhere from a range of 30 seconds up until 4 or 5 minutes. So generally, the phase that we see applicants go through is initially they don't speak enough, then they learn all the points in the theory and they have too much to say, and they end up going on for 6 or 7 minutes on a question. And then when you reach true mastery, you can tailor how long it takes you to answer a question. So for the same question, you'll be able to deliver it in 1 minute, 3 minutes, 7 minutes, and you can adjust the depth that you go into based on how much time you have available. And that's when you know you've truly mastered interviews. The 6th tip that we have is to then do self-marking. And a smart way to go about this is getting your answers that you've written up yourself and putting the question and answer into ChatGPT or AI and asking it to mark you. But also, you can consult an evidence base. What I want you guys to do is go onto a website called What Do They Know? You can find freedom of information requests here, where universities have released their medical and dental school interview mark schemes and have shown what they look for in particular stations. And if you read 10 or 15 of these, what you're going to find is that a lot of medical and dental schools are looking for the same things. It's the same qualities, attributes, and skills that they're testing in interviews. And if you expose yourself to that insight into what they're looking for, you can start to slowly blend it into your answers and tailor your answers to the mark scheme. Just like when you revise for your A-levels, it's always a good idea to consult the mark scheme. It's the same with interview preps. Play it. We gave you some resources to learn theory from, and we'd recommend that you make your own interview book. This might be a Microsoft Word or a software like Notion, or paper if that's what you prefer. But essentially, this book is your guide, your Bible of all the knowledge that you need to know. And what you're going to do is slowly populate it as you learn more theory and content. So for me, this book would look like a list of all the hot topics in dentistry, and I would write all the notes that I have for each hot topic. So for example, let's take social media. I would write about the pros of social media, the cons of social media for dentists, for dental students, for patients, and that would be what I'd be learning for my interviews. And with that knowledge pool, if I get asked anything on social media, I would be picking something from that knowledge pool and giving it in my answer. Step 8. At some point now, you're going to have done quite a few questions, developed a few frameworks, you worked a lot with AI, but what you now need to do is go and get tested. And this is where it is so important to have a community that you're surrounded in where you can get your answers checked. And this community should involve dental and medical students, or doctors and dentists, and other peers, because what that lets you do is get feedback from people who've been in your position and gone through it recently, the dental and medical students. The doctors and dentists can give you insight about how you're talking about topical issues from a lens where they are actually in the field, and they can suss out if you're talking about things in a mature way. And then the fellow colleagues around you is a nice place to be, because you can gauge and compare where everyone else is with their interview preparation and see if you are following the same speed of the applicants around you. As you practice with this community, one idea I have is to arrange Zoom calls or regular meetups where you go and meet each other and give answers directly. Up until now, you might be answering questions by yourself, but the limiting factor here is that there's no one to judge you. So when you work with someone else in person, they'll start to comment on your communication, your mannerisms, your tone, whether you are animated or whether you come across as dull. And these are all factors to work on, because at this point you're probably saying the right stuff, but is your overall aura good enough to convince the person on the other end that you're a kind, caring person who can communicate effectively, deal with pressure, and just show generally all the key qualities of a doctor or dentist? And that needs to be trained into you by getting harsh feedback from other people. So I know naturally as humans, feedback is something that we fear because we don't want to be critiqued. But for these few months, you need to switch your mindset and almost become like a hawk for feedback. You want to hear everyone's thoughts on the way you answer. Your mum, your dad, your friends, from people from your community, doctors, dentists, anyone. And the more feedback you get, some of it you might disregard, but some of it that tends to recur might be a key theme that you need to work on. And getting all of this feedback is only going to boost not just the way you come across, but you might even get new points and better points than you were originally saying to incorporate into your answers. And that's going to take the quality of your answers to another level. The next tip that we have is that you should contact university students at the universities where you want to study. The best way to do this is to go onto Instagram and find that university's medical or dental school society. You can drop them a message and ask for some advice on how to approach the interviews. And given the fact that they've been in your shoes before, they'll give you tips that will hopefully be tailored specifically to that university. Now, number 10, there may be a chance that some new guidelines and new hot topics come out and they could crop into your interviews. So how do you stay up to date with these? It's as easy as this. Download BBC Health and dentistry.co.uk if you're a dental applicant. And I want you to turn notifications on. Every single morning, you are now going to get bombarded with all of the latest medical and dental health news. And most of it you can disregard. But if there's key themes that keep cropping up over and over again, that's a hot topic. Go and read a few articles. Each of the articles are 2 or 3 minute reads. You can do this on your way to school, on your morning walk, or whatever it is. And passively, you're going to be studying that hot topic. So if it does come up in your interview, you know all about it and you're in a position where you're comfortable to have a conversation about it. The next principle is towards the end of your prep, you should be in a position where you have covered hundreds of questions in each of the domains. And you want to transition out of a learning content phase to purely answering questions and getting feedback from others, and constantly refining and keeping your answer flow up to scratch. Because the day of your interview, when you're giving an answer, guys, you want to have the answers on so much confidence in your head that you're not even thinking about what you're saying. The question's asked and you know all the points within a few seconds, but what you're rather focusing on is how you're actually getting the information across, what vibe you're giving off, how you're making the interviewer feel. When you walk into the room, are you greeting the interviewer? Are you painting a good impression? And just controlling your nerves. But if the knowledge isn't strong, then how are you going to do all of that? You won't be able to, you'll collapse. The next principle, and this is something you should do throughout your entire preparation, is to record yourself answering, either in a mirror or invest in a £15 tripod and set it up and just watch yourself front on give an answer. And when you give an answer, I want you to watch it back and don't even listen to the words you're saying, just look at yourself. What's wrong with the way you're coming across? Are you not animated enough? Are you very dull? Pick up on all these things and then slowly tweak them. Then turn the volume on. And now I want you to look away and listen to your words. Look out for ums and ahs. Look out for extended pauses. Look out for filler words. And then you know that those are also things to work on. The next tip is to simulate the battle. You should go through a few simulations of exactly what your interview will be like in an MMI format or a panel format or whatever format it is a few times and get regular feedback. The logic behind that is a few days before your actual exam, you want to have simulated what the real thing is like so that you're prepared for it on the day and nothing feels new. If possible, in the final stages, try and get some professional feedback as well. Book mock interviews with the most reliable people that you trust. Doctors, dentists, people like Medology, that's what we're here for. Final tip I have for you is in those interviews, when you walk into that room, please greet the interviewer. Please smile. Please enjoy the conversation and don't treat it like a test, but treat it as getting to know someone and just talking. And if you relax and you give off that comfortable, calm demeanor, they are much more likely to trust you. Because, unfortunately, nerves do affect your performance, and the calmer you can keep yourself, and if we can see that, the more trust we have in you. Make sure everything you say is spoken from the heart. Be genuine, because we can tell. And if you do that, we hope you'll get an offer. So that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you for watching. If you want to get coaching with our team and get trained up for your interviews so that we take all of the stress of preparation out of your head and give you a framework and a road to follow that will walk you to an offer, interview journey. If you've watched any of our previous videos, I've banged on about this, but I'll go through it one final time because this video is about preparation, right? This course has bi-weekly sessions where across 12 weeks, we'll have one-to-one interaction with you for around 25 hours. On top of that, we give you 40 hours of recorded content, 100 model answers with videos on how to answer the mainstream questions. We go through every single type of station, every single type of question, and we even bring on ex-interviewers, doctors and dentists to come and sit with you and give you that coaching and insight that you need. There's a reason that 90% of people on this program get into medical and dental school, when the average sits at somewhere between 30 to 40%. The program works, and we want it to work for you as well. So if you're interested in joining us, look into it, and we'd be happy to have you. Thanks for watching.